There's a single sentence from the OECD that should make every investor, policymaker, and citizen sit up straight. The global economy shows resilience, but underlying fragilities in debt and productivity threaten that stability. That line is not a dry bureaucratic footnote. It is a warning siren wrapped in a compliment, and it tells a story far darker than the headline number of 2.7% growth. Right now, I want you to imagine a world that looks calm on the surface, markets ticking up, unemployment not spiking, headlines celebrating recovery, while beneath the surface the foundations are cracking. Governments carrying record sovereign debt, corporations surviving on cheap credit, and productivity growth that has stalled for years. For the next 90 seconds, hold that image in your mind, because this is where the drama begins. The OECD's phrase, fragile stability, is not a paradox. It is a diagnosis. It means the system is standing, but it is standing on stilts. It means the global economy can grow, even modestly, while the engines that should power long-term prosperity, real productivity gains, sustainable public finances, and healthy private investment, are sputtering. It means policymakers have bought time, not solved the problem. And it means the next shock, whether a geopolitical flare-up, a sudden rate shock, or a climate disaster, could turn that fragile stability into a rapid, painful correction. Now stay with me, because understanding how this fragile stability formed, why it matters to your wallet and your job, and what could break it, is the difference between being blindsided and being prepared. The story begins with debt, sovereign, corporate, and household debt stacked higher than at any point in recent memory. After the pandemic, governments borrowed to stabilize economies. Central banks kept rates low to avoid a credit freeze, and corporations refinanced at record low yields. That policy mix worked when the shocks were temporary and the goal was to prevent collapse. But it also created a world where survival depends on cheap money. When interest rates rose, many borrowers were exposed. When growth slowed, tax bases weakened. When inflation returned in pockets, real incomes were squeezed. The OECD sees this and warns that the margin for error is thin. Debt that once seemed manageable now looks like a lever that could tip the balance. The second pillar of fragility is productivity. For decades, advanced economies have relied on incremental productivity gains from technology and capital investment to lift living standards. But productivity growth has been disappointing. Investment in the right kinds of capital skills, infrastructure, research has lagged. Firms hoarded cash or bought back shares instead of investing in long-term capacity. The result is growth that can be bought with stimulus and credit, but not sustained by real increases in output per worker. Put debt and weak productivity together, and you have a system that can be propped up by policy for a while, but not indefinitely. That is the essence of fragile stability, the appearance of normalcy built on temporary supports. Now let's raise the stakes. Imagine a sudden shock, a major bank failure, a sharp energy price spike, or a geopolitical escalation that disrupts trade. In a healthy system, such shocks are absorbed because productivity and fiscal buffers provide resilience. In a fragile system, the same shock forces governments to choose between painful austerity, inflationary money printing, or default. Each choice has consequences. Austerity can crush growth and employment. Money printing can erode savings and trigger runaway inflation in vulnerable economies. Default can shatter confidence and freeze markets. The OECD's warning is not theoretical, it is a map of possible futures. And the most dangerous part is psychological. Confidence is fragile. Markets and consumers can switch from calm to panic faster than any central bank can react. That is why the OECD's call for structural reforms, boosting productivity through education and infrastructure, rebalancing fiscal positions, and improving the efficiency of public spending, is not technocratic nitpicking, it is a survival manual. But this is not a doom-laden monologue. There are reasons for cautious optimism, and understanding them is crucial to staying engaged rather than paralyzed. First, resilience in 2025 did not happen by accident. Firms adapted supply chains, digital adoption accelerated, and some sectors saw genuine productivity gains from AI and automation. Second, policymakers have tools. Targeted fiscal consolidation, smarter public investment, and reforms that unlock private capital for productive uses. Third, the private sector can pivot. Companies that invest in skills, R&D, and resilient supply chains will outcompete those that rely on cheap credit. The problem is timing and political will. Structural reforms are often unpopular because they require short-term pain for long-term gain, and democracies are not always patient. That is why the OECD's warning is urgent. The window to act is open, but it will not stay open forever. Let me be blunt about what this means for you. If you are an investor, fragile stability changes risk calculations. Safe-looking sovereign bonds may carry hidden credit risk. Equities in low-productivity sectors may underperform, and real assets tied to productivity like infrastructure and education-linked investments may offer better long-term value. If you are a worker, the future of wages depends on whether productivity recovers. Without it, real incomes stagnate and inequality widens. If you are a policymaker or business leader, the choice is between short-term fixes and long-term resilience. The OECD is effectively telling leaders, stop papering over the cracks with cheap credit and start rebuilding the foundation. That is a heavy lift, but it is also an opportunity to reshape economies for the better. If this analysis resonates with you and you want to stay ahead of these shifts, consider subscribing to this channel. We dig beyond headlines to reveal the forces shaping your financial future, and subscribing helps you get those insights first. Hit the subscribe button now and ring the bell so you don't miss our next deep dive. Because the next episode will take this warning further. UNCTAD has already reported that global growth slowed to 2.6% in 2025, down from 2.9% in 2024, and that slowing momentum could expose the very fragilities the OECD warned about. In that episode, we will examine how slowing growth interacts with debt and productivity to create tipping points, and what scenarios could unfold in 2026. For now, remember this: fragile stability is not a comfortable equilibrium. It is a countdown clock. The choices made by governments, businesses, and individuals in the next months will determine whether the world converts fragility into reform or into crisis. Stay informed, stay skeptical of easy fixes, and prepare for a future where resilience must be rebuilt, not assumed.